Citizen Talks is a podcast series featuring discussions with humanitarians, activists, artists, and changemakers, exploring the global humanitarian issues that shape our society, the world at large.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Citizen Talks. I am your host Minkailu, and today we are very pleased to be joined by Professor Rana Dajani. She is a molecular biologist and the founder of We Love Reading. Rana, thank you so much for joining us here today. We really appreciate you being here. So first things first, let's get a brief overview of who you are, what you do for our audience members who may not be familiar with you and with your work.
I'm a scientist, and I think there's a very famous saying by a Nobel Prize physicist who says a scientist is someone who sees what everybody sees, but thinks what no one has thought. And I want to go beyond and say every human being does that. That's part of our DNA. That's how we evolved and survived and thrived. And so my curiosity and observation noticed that children, in Jordan in particular, because that's where I live, don't read for fun. And people would maybe think that it's because they don't know how to read. But actually, the literacy rate in Jordan is 99.9%. And so that kind of led me to dig deeper and nuance why children don't read for fun. And what I found out is that because they don't love to read, there's no passion, there's no intrinsic motivation, it's not connected to desire. Reading is connected to chores, boring, I have to go to school and do my homework. And if we want to reap the benefits of reading, we need to fall in love with reading. And when I talk about the benefits of reading, I mean building your vocabulary, so you have words to express yourself, building your confidence, because you can read about other people and how they have overcome their challenges, and then you can think, oh my God, I can be like that boy or that girl in the story, and so you can become a change maker as a child reading aloud these stories. Or you learn to express your emotions with words rather than with physical actions. And of course it widens your imagination, and you travel, if you not physically but literally, through reading in time and space. So the benefits of reading are immense. But the trigger is falling in love with reading. So the question then became, how do we encourage children to fall in love with reading? And so more observation and research, and we realized that children need a role model, somebody who themselves love reading and read aloud to the children. And this becomes very important, especially as the child is growing up, even as early as when the mother is pregnant. If this child or fetus is being read to, as the neurons are making connections in their brain, there's an association between the feeling of security and happiness with a caregiver who loves them that is associated with reading. And so when you grow up, you want to read when you're sad, you want to read when you're happy, because it gives you that good feeling from inside. And that's what We Love Reading was all about. It's about fostering that pleasure for reading that results in an intrinsic motivation that motivates the child to seek information, seek knowledge with pleasure. And that way you become a lifelong reader and a lifelong learner. And today in the education systems we have, which are falling apart, and with a future that we cannot predict, we don't know what it's going to look like, the question becomes, how do we prepare our children? And the idea is you can only give them that skills and foster those critical thinking skills that stay with them to the unknown future, which is using reading as a tool. And this reminds me, as a Muslim, the first word in the Quran is Iqra, which means read. And this doesn't mean read just to connect letters. Read to reflect, read to reassess how you think of the world, read to change yourself. And that's the kind of reading that we Love Reading wants to spread all over the world. Because yes, I noticed in Jordan children don't read for fun, but I realized this is not just in Jordan or the Arab world or so-called the global south, it's actually in every place in the world. Even in the US and in Europe, there are sectors of the community who do not read for fun. So this is a global problem that we need to address as soon as possible, because if we read for fun and become lifelong readers and learners, we can solve all the other problems that we talk about that are kind of summed up in the Sustainable Development Goals, from poverty to hunger to biodiversity to health. If we fall in love with reading, we can do that.
Okay, so I'm curious about this sort of global, as you say, education systems are falling apart, and it's like this global phenomenon that people don't really read for pleasure. What do you think the impact of modern technology is on this particular aspect of our societies in terms of how people engage with literature today. Do you think that this is a part of that decline, or is somehow responsible, or is it something else? Is it generally in our societies we don't sort of value this kind of thing anymore?
So since we're recording, I'm going to take a step back and explain what we did practically, and then I will answer that question.
Yeah,
because
sure.
They're connected, so it makes a logical sense. And you can then
pay attention, guys. Pay attention.
So what we did, so I discovered the key, right? It's about every parent should read aloud to their children. But what do I do with this knowledge? What do I do with this information? And again, back to my upbringing as a Muslim, every person is a guardian, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said. So I had to do something. It's not enough for me to read aloud to my children. And so in 2006, I thought, okay, I can't tell the government to pass a law, because even if they pass a law, every parent should read aloud to their children. That doesn't mean people are going to listen.
Right.
And it's impossible for me to knock on every door and tell every parent you have to read aloud to their children. So I thought, I will be the change that I want to see in the world, as Gandhi said. And so I started gathering the children in the mosque in my neighborhood, reading aloud to them on every Saturday morning. Books in their native language, because that's very important to plant the love of reading, and from the local culture and context, so the children could see themselves in the story. And oh my God, did we succeed. These children were flocking every Saturday morning to listen to the stories, because they were all fun. They were about the child who picks his nose and the child who wants to run away, so they could see themselves in the story. Yeah. And in their native language, so they could really enjoy it. But more importantly, the children would line up and then take the books home. And they became the champions of reading in their homes. So rather than the parent begging the child to come to be read to, it's the child begging their parent to read to them, or the child reading to their siblings or their friends. And even the child now has the incentive to want to go to school, to learn to read, to unlock more of that magic that he or she are gaining from listening to the reading aloud. And that's how We Love Reading was born. And then after 3 years of trial and error in the neighborhood, it became a program where we train youth, men and women from age 16 to 100, how to read aloud as an art in your native language, and then how to gather children in your neighborhood to read aloud to them. And I started in the mosque, but it could be a church, a community center, under a tree, on the stairs of a building. We trust the person who's reading aloud in their neighborhood to figure out where is the right place, the right time, the right day, and then how to attract the children. Now, these people who graduate from this training program are volunteers. Nobody pays them. They do it because they care about their community. And we call them We Love Reading ambassadors. And what they do is they go ahead discovering their voices literally by reading aloud to the children, but figuratively by becoming leaders in their own community. Because as they read to the children, this face-to-face interaction gives them confidence in themselves and the appreciation of the community for them, because they are the ones who get all the credit. We, the We Love Reading program founders, we are in the background. Nobody knows about us, so they get all the credit. And so they suddenly become leaders. And they think, oh my God, if I solve this problem of reading, what else can I solve? And that's why our mission is changing mindsets, whether it's the children or the adults, changing mindsets through reading to nurture change makers. So reading becomes a tool, not the goal in itself. And if we have every person feeling that they are a change maker, every person is a guardian, and then they can each work on the problems in their local community, and therefore we can change the world one neighborhood at a time. And so that's the, okay, pause. And that's why We Love Reading has spread today to 72 countries around the world. And the training is in 20 languages, and we can add more languages. And we moved it online so that we could reach more people. But we made it very low tech, low digital literacy, so anybody anywhere can pick it up, take the training whenever they feel comfortable, whenever they can. And then after they graduate, they become part of a bigger community on WhatsApp, so they can share their expertise, their challenges, their successes, because they are the experts. The We Love Reading ambassadors, they are the ones who deserve all the credit for all the success of We Love Reading all over the world. We get a lot of that question about using the internet and social media. And it does that, and the question is, does that distract from reading? You know, first of all, if you want a child to fall in love with reading, it has to be with a physical book. Because the temptations on mobile devices for games is much more. So it's a losing battle. So you have to start with a real book and read aloud to the child. And that's why we've created 38 children's books. And I
really?
brought a copy. Yes, we have these 38 children's books. They're in Arabic, and they are on multiple themes: energy conservation, water conservation, about bullying, gender, disabilities, even science. So there's a range of books. But these are books that are illustrated with beautiful illustrations, and like I said, in the local language of the child, so that the child falls in love with reading. But this is important, so that when the child is looking into your eyes and close to you, that human-human interaction is so important for our survival as a species. And so when we read aloud to the child using real books, we foster that love of reading. Now, when the child falls in love with reading, after we've shown in our research, if you read for 3 months once a week, that's enough to change the attitudes and practices of the children towards reading. Then they're off. They can go find the books they want, whether now they go to a public library or they may access that literature using a digital device. But what has changed is that these children are now already fallen in love with reading. They're primed, they're conditioned, and they will go to the mobile device seeking to read rather than seeking to play. But you can't do it the other way around. So using digital devices is fine. As any advancement, when TV it came out, everybody said, oh my God, this is a disaster. All these advancements are great things. It's how you use them and how you control their usage. And that's where the awareness of the parents, the educators, becomes very, very important.
Right. I'm curious about your perspective on the current education system and the progression of it over the past decade in particular. And you can say either in the West or you can say in Jordan, as you prefer. What do you think has been sort of the driving factor in the decline of a lot of these global education systems that we've seen over the past decade? And it seems like it has accelerated quite a bit. Is it lack of resources, or do you feel that there's something more intentional, more sinister behind this? Because everywhere in the world I hear people sort of echoing the same kind of concern around their educational systems. And it's for me as well concerning, because I have a young son who is not in school yet. So this is very personally sort of a focus that I have in my mind right now.
That's an excellent question, and very, very important and relevant today more than ever. So we know that the education systems are cracking. I mean, and with COVID and everything shut down, those cracks showed even more. And I think actually it's an opportunity today to rethink these systems. But in order to rethink them properly, we need to put our finger on what is the problem. And from my point of view, I think the problem is that most of the education systems as we know them today have been built around the model of producing a citizen that is obedient, that follows the rules, so that they could put them in factories to do mass production. And this has been the case in the past 200 years. And I think that's where the problem is. So children are bored, they're going to quit school, and actually such a system does not foster creativity, does not foster curiosity. And those are two fundamental qualities that allowed us to survive as a species. And when we squash those qualities, we're not going to be able to advance, especially for the future, to protect our planet by taking responsibility. But more importantly, when we don't value also the education in terms of morals and ethics and having that fiber inside, we will suffer from injustice and inequality, which we are today. So the question then becomes, what do we do? And I think it's about redesigning the whole system to focus on fostering and encouraging those intrinsic qualities that make us human. So to me, those first is curiosity. How do I create a system that actually fosters curiosity, which is led by the child, asking questions and allowing the child to explore? Second, how do we foster that feeling of I solve problems? This problem solving, or we could call it social innovation, where I see something in front of me that bothers me and I start asking, how can I make that better? And then exploring how to do that and problem solving on the way. And that's how you foster those skills of critical thinking, trial and error, it's okay to fail. All those qualities can only happen if the child is given freedom to embark on a journey of discovery of their own. Third, we are diverse. No one human is like any other human being. So how do we celebrate that diversity? By allowing each child to embark on their own particular journey. The education systems today are all cookie cutter. You have an exam and everybody has to rate on the same exam, which is so against nature, against our biology. So the education systems we're trying to imagine, one that celebrates this diversity and allows that freedom of doing whatever they want. And the third the fourth is how do we encourage human-human interaction? We are social creatures, right? We don't evolve to be individuals, each person living alone. So how do we encourage teamwork? How do we encourage communication? To talk to each other, to engage with each other, to listen to each other. We don't listen anymore. And then to respect. And to respect that somebody else, even if they're coming from a whole different community, a whole different culture, have something to teach me, and I have something to teach them. So this mutual respect is fundamental. So how do we create an education system that has that at the center as well? So to me, these are the qualities of the education system we need to aspire to that unfortunately are not present in the education systems that exist today.
Is there a particular framework that exists today that you are like a sort of a champion or a supporter of? You know, there's lots of different, I know there's things like Montessori and different kinds of structures for how to do childhood education. Is there one in particular that you're a big fan of?
Right, so there are many attempts and experiments and pilots around the world. To me, it's not about choosing one. It's about focusing to trust people in their local neighborhood to figure out what works for them. So there shouldn't be one program that everybody works on. It's about what are the universal things, which I mentioned, that people need to be aware of as they develop for their own community. So rather than looking at a global solution, one global solution, we're looking at a decentralized, where everybody comes up with what works for them. And I think that's the core way going forward. And if we don't do that, that's where the problems start happening. So I'm going to go back to We Love Reading as an example. So We Love Reading has spread around the world. It has spread in a way that explains what I'm getting at. We Love Reading has spread because it's only, wait, let me say that in a better. We Love Reading has spread because it has the basic framework or skeleton, which is based on universal values, which is somebody reading aloud to the children. That's it. Now, celebrates diversity, and it's very contextualized locally because you read in your native language, you choose when and where, you choose how, you choose everything, and that is very local for that person in their local neighborhood. So yes, it is shared universal values, but very contextualized, and that reflects nature. We can learn so much from nature. We all share the same DNA, which has the same building blocks, but we are so diverse. So any education program has to reflect that delicate balance and harmony between local and global. What is it that we can share, and what is it that is very, very contextualized to celebrate that diversity? One of the successes of We Love Reading is that we base it on research. So we invite scholars and scientists from all over the world to study the impact on children and the impact on adults. So for children, we've shown that their reading practices and attitudes have changed, but more importantly, their mental health has improved because they have a human being talking to them, their emotional perception. And then through the stories from different themes, they have changed their behavior towards the environment, towards gender, towards disability, which is kind of a response on how do we change. Education is about changing behavior. So how can we do it in the least, in the easiest way to get across deep into the minds and behavior of the children? And the research we've done on the adults really surprised us. We found out that these adults, the We Love Reading ambassadors, themselves have become, their well-being has improved. So it's their mental health because suddenly they have a purpose in life, especially for women or youth or older grandparents who've done what they've done. So now they have a renewed interest in life. But also their life satisfaction has went up and their empowerment. And we've used multiple tools to try to understand what it means to them in their local context. And all of this is published, academic research, which is important that we have a robust program that is steeped in research. And when people say, how is We Love Reading innovative? So for three things. One, it is the whole philosophy of We Love Reading is based on a mindset of I can, that I do things because I want to, not because I have to. So the ambassadors are volunteers, the children are voluntarily come, and that's so important because when you have the freedom to quit, you never quit. And that's the thing we want to foster in children growing up, is that they do things because they want to, not because the teacher told them. The second thing is because We Love Reading is based on universal shared values, but it is very locally contextualized, so people have ownership. And lastly, we use technology in a way where we control it. So for the reading aloud, it has to be a real book, but the ambassadors, the adults, are connected online and the training is online. So we show a way of using technology that we don't become slaves to it.
So do you have any final words for our listeners before we go?
As an educator, teaching students and interacting with them all over the world, in different age groups and different women and men from the communities around the world. I've learned so much from them. And my message is, there's no human being like anyone else. As a biologist, every person's DNA is different from anyone who has lived in the past, who lives today, who will live in the future. Even identical twins are different because of epigenetics. And that means everybody has something unique to give to the world. And so I invite people to trust their gut feeling, trust themselves. Find a challenge that bothers them in their own community, and then have the confidence to think, I can find a solution for this, and then to try that solution. And things start small. It's not about creating a big bang or a big show. It's about starting small. And that's from Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, do not belittle any good deed. And it's actually also a law in physics, the chaos theory, which says when a butterfly flutters its wings in one part of the world, it moves the air a centimeter. There's change in another place in the world in another time that makes it into a hurricane. So be the butterfly of change. Nothing is impossible, as Muhammad Ali said, and just keep going. And what matters is for you to have that moral compass of what is right and what is wrong, and not to be afraid to make a difference. And little things will go on to be bigger things.
Very wise words. Thank you so much. So for our audience members who might want to find out more about your work and follow along, where can they connect with you?
You can go to welovereading.org. In Arabic, نحن نحب القراءة. We're on the internet, on all the social media platforms, and reach out to us. And if you want a copy we have the book about We Love Reading, and we have also the 5 Scarves book. Oops, sorry. Oh, no, it's right. We have the 5 Scarves book, and all our children's books are available for anyone to use. And we invite you to, finally, a documentary was made about We Love Reading. It took one of a Syrian woman who started reading aloud to the children in 2014 when I trained her, and she is still reading aloud to the children. So a documentary was made about her. You can screen it for free, and our campaign is 1 million Asma. Can we have all over the world to encourage women from any age group to start reading aloud to the children in their neighborhood. So check us out on 1millionasma.org.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us today, Rana. We really appreciate you being here. And for all of our listeners, thank you for being here as well. And we will see you again on another episode of Citizen Talks.